Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Monday, January 27th. No question, volatility hit the markets a bit today. We had S&P was down 1.6% on the day. Qs got hit a little bit harder. They were down 2.1%. IWM fared a little bit better today after getting really beaten up last week. So the small caps finished down 1.1%. And then a couple of the risk off areas, bonds were really strong today and closed on the highs today, up almost 1.6%. That's the TLT. And gold also acted as a risk off haven, up close to 0.75%, just about 68 basis points. So let me give you my market thoughts for the day, as well as kind of some of the big questions that I got in the room today. But so where to start? So I would say, obviously some of the things that are going on right now in the market, the what's causing the volatility or the headlines is, kind of the fear about this virus, and then some other things going on, right? The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad also got hit. So it's kind of like a few different things. But one of the things that I could tell you when we get these bouts of volatility, which I think is what we have right now, the VIX closing at the high of the day, up 25%. There's no trail off in the VIX at the end of the day. Is that normally when we have these bouts of volatility, some of this, there's a lot of things that will show up time and time again, regardless of like whatever the reason is. And so we kind of go through in the trading room, we go through the exercise of, I have like a checklist, right? And I call it like checking the boxes, basically. you know 4 or 5 things. The put call ratio has to get to an extreme. The VIX has to start to trail off rather than ramping into the close today. uh, Things like biotech. So I'm okay giving you my little playbook here, but things like biotech have to kind of turn around for whatever reason. Like XBI is one of those ETFs to follow when there's market volatility. And what I usually want to see is like a red to green day, right? We start down like 2% red, and we rally back hard. Small caps are another thing to watch too. They did okay today. They just couldn't bounce, all the way. So where does that leave us for the day? It leaves us with probably there's more volatility the rest of the week. And if you look at today's events, you have a lot of stuff that's unresolved. We've got a lot of big earnings reports this week, and we've got FOMC this week, and then of course we're going to hear more about where this virus goes to, because we just don't have enough. There's too much uncertainty about the overall virus. So that's my opinion. Some of the top questions that I received today were, hey, we finally got a dip in the market. Should I, I'm a little bit under owned equities, or I missed part of the move. Should I be buying today? And my thought is a couple different things. First of all, I can't tell you what to do. I can't give you recommendations or advice, but it really depends. It depends on your time frame. And what you're dealing with position size, right? So if you're like a long-term investor, then finding a day where we're down, where the Qs are down 2% on the day, that might be something that's appealing to you long term. But shorter term, we just don't. I think with the way some of these things ended for the day, again, nothing's 100%, right? Just because the VIX did what it did and ramped up at the end of the day, and TLT didn't sell off. There's no 100% here, but the odds are that that's more risk off than risk on, and you want to see it kind of at the end of the day. You want to see really buyers step in, which they did not do that yet. So what do we do when that happens? Well, we realize that we've got that it could be a few days before this washes out, and who knows, it could be even longer with this virus if it gets worse. But here's some of the things that I said during the day, and then I'll go through the technicals. But I try to I put out more posts when there's market volatility. I try to provide as much information because I've been through a lot of these sell-offs, and I kind of get the understanding. I never like so some of the things that the mistakes, and I try to like share with you personal things, but some of the things that I've done incorrectly in the past is I buy too much too soon. You're like, oh wow, I haven't seen the market down 1%. This is a big opportunity, and then over the next couple of days, all in all, the market's down like 3 or 4%. So your initial buy gets underwater really quickly. Today was a little bit different because we did bounce a little bit in the first couple hours of the day. So if you did buy a couple things, you could have gotten out of them. But that's usually the mistake that I make is sometimes I buy a little bit too early, and then we have another washout. So I made sure today, and I'll go over these technicals, but I try to put out some information. I said basically watch biotech. It's one of the first, provides a nice hint. I was talking about Lulu. I said, right around like, I think around like 10 or 11 this morning, I said, I don't really see any confirmation yet that volatility is done. The above are a few dip buys. I kind of talked about what I was doing. I bought a little bit of Micron, just 100 shares. But don't see anything meaningful on the tape that says we're in the clear. So I'm waiting for that confirmation that most of the selling is done. We just never got that today. And here's some of the things that I'm looking for. The VIX, all things that I've talked about. The VIX to trail off, decent call buying, which we never saw today. We saw some really light things. Some dip buys in some things. Peloton calls, which I don't really buy into this. People thinking that Peloton's going to go up because people are going to buy Pelotons rather than going to the gym. I don't think that. I mean, maybe that could cause like a couple day rally, but I don't know. That's kind of a reach. I don't know. People are going to automatically cancel their gym memberships and buy a Peloton because they're scared to go to the gym. I don't know. But there was some. Maybe that's not the only reason why people are buying Peloton calls. Snap, a lot of calls went up today on a dip. I have to check to see if that increased open interest. There was some managed care buying at the end of the day. Note, I think seeing one of these names reports earnings this week. All in all, what I'm trying to say is there wasn't anything really that got me excited enough to. There wasn't anything that got me excited enough in today's option flow that got me to even buy anything. And again, remember how I view option flow? It's just for me an idea. Can create some short-term momentum, but if it really, like for something like this today, right? There's a big call order in Nerve. I'm not going to buy on some, especially some like on a day like this. Like I don't know this name. I'm not going to buy it just because there's a big order on the tape. I need to see, like, I need to actually do a little bit of research, and the technicals have to line up. But just because there's a big call order in whatever stock it is, it's got to really agree with my system. So I don't chase any like orders like that are kind of outliers. OLED saw I think a dip buy. I mean that name really got hit hard today. OLED was down 7.5%. Right, down 7.5%. Notice it is down to the bottom, back to the 200-day moving average. This thing was kind of struggling last week too, so I don't know. It wasn't enough for me to get involved in this, even though down 7.5%. Probably a reason if you like a stock. These were the Feb 195 calls that went up. Big chunky order, $600,000 in premium. So that's something, and maybe they're buying that. I don't know if that will have Apple implications. I'm hearing that the new. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of something else, but I was thinking of the iPad, but I don't know if OLED has anything to do with that. But interesting. I do think there's some implications there or there could be some implications with Apple earnings. So interesting. We'll keep an eye on that name tomorrow. A few other points I wanted to make. I did want to go over the call activity for you. By the way, a lot of puts in the first hour of the day too. Throughout the day, there was a decent amount of put buying. I know I basically just cover the call buying, but there was quite a bit of put buying today too. And even so, that this was a little bit of an update I gave in the afternoon. Not much going on in the afternoon. I said, really, I haven't traded much. So, like I said, I added some SPX call spreads. I took them off already for profits. That was a really quick trade. Just looking for a quick morning bounce. I bought a little bit of Lulu and I bought a little bit of Micron. Lulu, I already took a target on. So that was it for me for trading because I really think that you kind of have to think about this more than just one day. And again, I think that's where a lot of traders make the mistake sometimes after seeing a big run up. They're like, hey, if I could just get that, if I could just get a dip. However, the dips don't always just last one day. So I said here, still have a very big week in front of us. Earnings plus FOMC. So yeah, I mean, we don't know what we're going to get with earnings. And let's say that we do get a dip, which I'll get to in a second. But I said for now, I'm keeping a watch list of names that I'm interested in and may look to add back risk. So the tactical portfolio was something that I took off a lot of risk, not just last Friday, but the Friday before. So I really moved into cash with that thing. So I'll look to redeploy some of that, possibly tomorrow or Wednesday. Once we get through FOMC. And then I said, but again, would not be surprised if the volatility hangs around for a bit, considering what a run this market has been on. So next, I want to go into the to the chart of the S&P, but other comment that I made at the end of the day, which I just posted on the private Twitter as well. Somebody was mentioning that they think that the virus is going to be around for a while, and I said I agree. I don't think this thing is going to go away in just a few days. I do think eventually it will pass. Again, I'm not as I have said in multiple videos and in the room, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but usually these health scares they go on for a little bit, and we do have different technology than we had. I know, like I saw like comparisons to 1918. Yeah, well, of course, we can travel faster than we did in 1918, so things spread faster, but we also have a lot better technology too. So, it's funny that people make the comparisons of 1918 when there was a big outbreak and they talk about how things could get worse. Well, what about things like technology and the ability for us to make a vaccine much faster than usual? You don't hear, the doomsdayers, the guys who are trying to spread fear on Twitter are just talking negatively. They're just doing that. And I do view that there's a big difference with traders on Twitter, some of which are tweeting every time there's a new death in this virus, versus some traders are observing price action. They're looking at relative strength. They're looking, meaning what names are performing really well and bucking the trend. Looking for things, right? Looking for things that are going to make a difference. And yet I see a whole other group of traders like retweeting every time there's a death that happens or some other area. That's not, I'm sorry, but that's not really going to help anybody in their trading. But it is what it is. That's what we have on Twitter these days. Okay. But yeah, so I do think that this passes. Um, Again, not being a medical expert, but and I think it will create buying opportunities. So, for instance, names like Microsoft, Apple, if they go lower because people are worried about them missing sales or something, that to me that's going to be a really nice buying opportunity. Again, when it is a buying opportunity is another question. So let's dig into the charts and we'll talk about some of the things that I set out earlier. Notice not much really changed from the beginning of the day. One of the things that I noticed was this 1 hour virgin point of control being taken out. Now we do have ones lower. But the support for now, I mean, it is what it is. We can only rely on what we have at this moment. 3235. So 3,235 spot 75 in S&P futures is a level that we found support on, which also coincided with the virgin point of control being taken out. So that's not a bad thing. We just don't know if that's going to hold into tomorrow. If they announced, God forbid if they announce like more cases in another major city, this could get broken, right? And we could fall a little bit further. So these are the things that you kind of have to think about a little bit when you're planning about trading. Is positives and negatives. Also on the daily chart, and we'll use the 10-year here, 10-year period, but we're not down to support yet in the S&P. So if we do break that level that I just mentioned, the 3230, what I say, 3235, then the next level down would be 3202. So how do I handle that? Well, I try to look for a couple things, like I bought, and that's where I would be looking to redeploy some more risk. But something like this caught my eye. Lululemon, down into support. I bought a little bit of this and took some off. Again, and the main goal is to like look for some quality setups, which most likely will take a few days to develop. But I don't know that either. So if we do bounce, I have some skin in the game. Because again, you're dealing with probability and uncertainty, and my gut feeling is that we do have a few more days of volatility. But if things work out in the short term really well, and the market rallies, at least I have some exposure to a bounce. And again, not all names are going to perform exactly the same way, but I like the support in here. I like the fact that this is a name that I've been trading, so I'm somewhat familiar with it. No call buying. I didn't see anything like that in there today, but that and like a name like Micron, which we've seen a lot of price target raises by brokers. Again, at the end of the day, doesn't mean much. But we've seen a lot of call activity in this one too, and it just looked like it's still in value. But so this was just an ultimate, hey, I'm going to start a position in here. A couple other names on my watch list, like I've been long Twilio. This thing did fine today, just down 0.75%. So again, there'll be a lot more. I'm kind of hesitant to go much more deeper into a lot of charts right now, because I just think if you let it play out, the setups are really going to come to you. Rather than really trying to look for something, give it a few days, let it breathe. I also don't like when the VIX is in backwardation, which I think is in today, where they're bidding up front month contracts. So again, think about this, but think about it in terms of more than just one day. All right, guys. So I'm going to leave it there for the end of day recap. A lot of things I'll be, tomorrow morning. As far as like as many signals and confirmation, I'll be all over that again tomorrow. I actually very much like enjoy these days, because there's a lot more going on than us just kind of continuously grinding up, and that's not easy either. When the market was doing this, right? Doing this the whole time was not easy to kind of stay in the trend, especially when we were really overbought for a while. So the other thing to notice, and I'll kind of leave it here, but we've been on such a big run, right? A few days of a pullback at this point is well needed, considering how overbought we were and how far sentiment got stretched, right? We talked a lot about the panic, the City Panic Euphoria Index, which finally got into euphoria, and once again provided a really good signal. All right, guys, that's it for today. Have a great night, and see you tomorrow. Oh, and we will do our chart forum tomorrow. I think that'll be good after a couple days of pullback to go over charts. So we'll do that in the room tomorrow, post close. Again, have to be a member for that. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.